Georgia told me a joke this week, and so I'm going to share it with you. I love it when you guys share jokes, and when they go with the scripture, I love it even more. So stay with me, and you'll see the connection by the end of the message. So one fine morning in the Garden of Eden, God looked down on Adam, and he noticed that Adam was looking a little glum. And so the Lord said to Adam, "What troubles you, my son?" And Adam looked up at God, and he said, "I'm lonely, Father. I have no one to talk to." And so God said, "I shall give you a perfect companion. She'll cook and clean for you. She'll wash your clothes. She shall bear your children and never wake you up in the middle of the night to take care of them. She'll give you love and compassion whenever you want it, and she'll not nag you. She will always be the first one to admit that she's wrong if the two of you ever disagree. She'll love and support you no matter what, and always agree with any important decision that you're going to make. And she'll be called woman." And intrigued, Adam said to God, "Well, Lord, what will this woman cost?" And God replied, "An arm and a leg." And Jesus pondered for a minute. And then with all seriousness that only comes with complete certainty, he answered, "What can I get for just a rib?" Today we're launching our Lenten series, which I'm calling Rising Strong, because we're going to take the next 40 days in preparation for Easter, also known as Resurrection Sunday. This year we'll look at ourselves each week through the lens of Scripture and Brené Brown's latest book, also entitled Rising Strong. She's written several books before, and so we're going to kick off the series by laying some critical foundation for the whole series today from some of her previous works. And the subject of today is vulnerability, stuff we're going to build on week as we go through Lent. And the starting place when it comes to vulnerability is to know that there's something incredibly powerful that happens when you and I lean in to the discomfort that wells up inside of us every time we step out and let our real selves be seen. When we step out and let people see who we really and truly are. And for most people, showing up and letting the real you be seen is an extreme rarity. It certainly was for me. I knew that I had a problem with this thing called vulnerability when I felt like I couldn't share how sad I was, or how hurt I was, or how empty my soul felt, or how far away God sometimes seemed with the people who were closest to me. And this inability to be vulnerable was hurting my relationships with not only my family and friends, but also in my work with the church that I was starting to serve. You see, in my former sales career, the last thing that was encouraged was to be vulnerable or to show any chink in my armor at all. I was encouraged to pretend as if everything was great all of the time. And I was encouraged to act as if I was perfect. And everything was perfect. But you see, that part of my life was over now. And I knew that I wanted to live out the definition in Brené Brown's books of vulnerability. And so I want to share this definition because I think it's really important that we understand what vulnerability means in the sense we're talking about it. Vulnerability, the willingness to show up and be seen with no guarantee of the outcome. I'm going to repeat it once more. Vulnerability, is the willingness to show up and be seen with no guarantee of the outcome. That's who I wanted to become. That's what I wanted to try to live into. Because what was true for me, and maybe true for you too, was that I cared way too much about outcome. That's all sales is about. It's about outcome, getting the outcome. And it's something I still work on every single day. You see, I just now still care way too much about what people think of me to let anyone actually see what's going on inside of me. The risk was just too great. Because I kept telling myself, I'm a pastor now. I'm supposed to have it all together, aren't I? People want their pastor to have it all together. As I said, part of the reason I had this problem was those years I spent in high-pressure sales. But also, my family was the kind of family that's never really sat around talking about feelings. And maybe you came from a family like that too. The unspoken message of my family was, just do your job and don't whine or make excuses about it. Our mantra was, I'm fine, I'm fine, everything is fine. And so with a crumbling marriage and a new career starting in the ministry, I wanted to break out of this trap of pretending perfection. So I went to the pastor who was mentoring me through seminary, and I asked her to help me unpack some of these feelings and thoughts that were keeping me trapped. And I have to say, it was really, really hard. Every time I would drive to go see the pastor, my hands would start to sweat on the steering wheel as I anticipated having these personal, candid conversations, and my stomach would start to churn. And in my mind, I started making up all these reasons about how I could pick up my cell phone and tell her, I think I've got a little stomach flu. I'm not sure I can make it today. But slowly, through many conversations, being candid and honest, we finally got to the things that were undermining my ability to believe that I could just show up each and every day and just be the real me. Now, I want to be honest here. Vulnerability isn't for everybody. Honestly, it's not. But when it comes to vulnerability, you get to choose. You get to choose. You get to decide whether you're going to live a life of vulnerability or not. You get to ask yourself, am I going to live that way? Am I going to show up and really be seen? Really and truly be the real me with no guarantees of the outcome? Or not? That's the choice that we all get to make. Teddy Roosevelt, in a quote that I never thought had anything to do with vulnerability, captures the image of what it means to be vulnerable. You've probably heard this quote because it's quite famous, and if you are reading Brené's book, she uses this quote quite frequently. So I want to read it to you now. He said this in Paris at the Sorbonne in 1910, but it still really holds true today when it comes to vulnerability. It's not the critic that counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who actually does strive out to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And right there, that's what it means to be vulnerable. It's you and it's me out in the middle of the arena. And the arena is different for each and every one of us. Your arena could be your bedroom with your spouse. Your arena could be your office with your coworkers. Your arena might be your classroom with your peers, or your backyard with your neighbors, the athletic field with your teammates. The arena is any place you show up and bring your whole self out there, where you're seen at your core for the person you really are. You're real. You're authentic. And you don't have any control over the outcome. It's just you. Strengths, weaknesses, good, bad, down, up, even sideways. Just you. And when that's how you've decided that you're going to live your life, then there's nothing within your control when it comes to how people evaluate you, how they measure you, what they think about you. Not one. And in order for you to live that vulnerably, here's what you have to do. You ready? It takes courage. It takes incredible courage to walk a life of vulnerability. And I really like this word, courage. It comes from the Latin cor, which means heart. So to be vulnerable means to live our lives and tell our stories with our whole heart. To have the courage to show up and risk being seen, imperfections and all. You and I, living with our whole hearts, means that we show up every single day with no guarantee of the outcome. It means that you let go of who you think you need to be in order to show up and be the person you really are. You and me, stepping out into the arena, whatever our arena is, courageously. And isn't it true that we're never more vulnerable than when we're in love with someone? You know this. We've all felt it. I know we have. Because the person we love could leave us. We could end up abandoned. And that's a risk. But vulnerability is more than just loving someone. It could be you sharing an unpopular opinion, or you standing up for yourself, or standing up for someone else. It might be you asking for help. It might look like you saying no. It might be you starting your own business. It might be you saying, I love you first, with no guarantee that you'll hear those words back. Vulnerability might be you waiting for biopsy results as you wait for that dreaded phone call. Vulnerability is you admitting you're afraid. Vulnerability is you stepping up to the plate after a whole series of strikeouts and being willing to step back into the game. Vulnerability is asking someone out on a date after years of being single, or after a divorce, or being widowed. Or vulnerability might be laying off employees from your company. Vulnerability is a whole